My name is Father Daniel Vargas, and on the night of April 17th, 2013, my life changed forever. I had always believed in God, dedicating my entire existence to serving Him. I spent years studying scripture, leading Mass, and guiding others in their faith. To everyone around me, I was a devoted priest, but deep inside, something never felt quite right. That night, I was alone in the church, kneeling before the altar, whispering a quiet prayer. The flickering candlelight danced against the stone walls, and the only sounds were my own breaths. I begged God to take away the emptiness I had felt for so long. Then, out of nowhere, a sharp pain tore through my chest, stealing the air from my lungs. I clutched my chest as the pain spread like fire, making my vision blur. My body weakened, my legs buckled, and I collapsed onto the cold tile floor. A terrifying realization hit me. I was dying. I tried to call out for help, but no words came, only the deafening sound of my own heartbeat slowing down. Then, something strange happened. My body was still on the ground, but I wasn't inside it anymore. I was floating above myself, looking down at my lifeless form. I should have been terrified, but for some reason I wasn't. That is, until I noticed them, the shadows lurking in the darkness. The shadows moved, unnaturally shifting between the pews, creeping closer to where my body lay. They had no faces, no solid form, but I could feel them. A cold, suffocating dread washed over me as I realized they weren't just watching, they were coming for me. I wanted to run, to fight, but I had no body to move. Their whispers slithered through the air, a language I couldn't understand, but the meaning was clear. They were claiming me. The more I resisted, the stronger their pull became, dragging me away from the altar, away from the light. I had spent my life warning others about darkness, about the battle between good and evil. But now I was living it, and I was losing. Just when I thought I would be swallowed whole, something changed. A light, small at first, flickered in the distance. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, alive in a way I couldn't explain. The moment it appeared, the shadows recoiled, hissing like wounded animals. The light grew stronger, pushing them back, and then it surrounded me completely. The warmth was overwhelming, filling every part of me with peace unlike anything I had ever known. I was no longer afraid. I was being pulled toward something or someone. And then, standing in the center of the light, I saw him. Jesus. He wasn't just in the light. He was the light, and he was looking right at me. His eyes met mine, and in that instant, I felt completely exposed. Every thought, every doubt, every hidden fear I had carried for years, he saw all of it. But there was no anger, no judgment in his gaze. Only love, a love so deep, so overwhelming that I could barely stand beneath the weight of it. Then he spoke. His voice was unlike anything I had ever heard. Not just sound, but a force that moved through me, shaking me to my core. Daniel. He said my name as if he had known me forever. Do you truly know me, or do you only know about me? The question hit me like a blow to the chest. I had spent my entire life studying scripture, teaching others about Jesus. But had I ever truly known him? I opened my mouth to answer, but no words came. My mind raced, searching for something to say. Of course, I knew him. I had dedicated my life to serving him. But as I stood there, face to face with the very one I had preached about, I felt the awful truth sinking in. I had memorized prayers, performed rituals, followed traditions, but I had never sought him. Tears filled my eyes as I lowered my head. I thought I did. I finally whispered, my voice trembling. I thought I was serving you. Jesus stepped closer, his presence radiating warmth. Yet his expression was filled with sorrow. "You have served me," he said gently, "but faith is not just about what you do. It is about who you are with me." His words cut through me like a knife, but not to wound, to reveal. My whole life, I had measured my faith by my obedience to the church, by how well I followed its rules and traditions. But standing before Jesus, I realized something terrifying. I had been devoted to religion, not to him. I had spent years teaching others to seek God, yet I had never truly sought him myself. I felt shame wash over me, heavier than anything I had ever carried. I thought I was doing what you wanted, I whispered. I thought I was leading people to you. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder, and the moment he touched me, a warmth spread through my entire being. It wasn't just comfort, it was truth. And that truth shattered everything I had built my faith on. He lifted his hand, and suddenly, I wasn't just standing in his presence anymore. I was seeing my life through his eyes. Moments from my past played out before me like scenes from a film. I saw myself leading mass, blessing homes, hearing confessions. I had believed I was guiding people toward God, but now I saw what I had missed. The people weren't just looking for a priest, they were looking for him. And I had given them rituals, not relationship. The scenes changed, and I saw something else. Moments when I had truly reflected his love without even realizing it. Sitting with a grieving mother, holding her hand in silence. Comforting a sick child in the hospital, whispering prayers not from obligation, but from love. These were the moments when I had truly known him, not through rituals, but through love. "Do you see now, Daniel?" Jesus asked, his voice filled with sorrow. "Faith is not about the actions you perform. It is about the love you live." Tears streamed down my face as I watched the truth of my own life unfold before me. For so long, I had believed that my role as a priest was to preserve the traditions of the church, to uphold its teachings, to follow its structure perfectly. But now, I saw how often I had been blind to what really mattered. The rituals, the prayers, the sacraments, they were meant to point people to Jesus, but too often they had become the focus instead of a means. I turned back to him as my voice was shaking and said, "I don't want to just know about you anymore." I said, "I want to really know you, and truly know you." Jesus smiled, and in that moment, the light around him seemed to shine even brighter. "Then follow me," he said, "not just in word, but in heart, and lead others to me, not to tradition." His words weren't a command, they were an invitation. An invitation to something deeper, something real. Then, in an instant, everything changed again. The radiant light around us began to shift, and I felt myself being pulled away. I panicked, not wanting to leave his presence. "Wait!" I cried out, "Please don't let me go." But Jesus looked at me with unwavering love and said something I will never forget. "It is not yet your time, Daniel, but you must share what you have seen." Before I could respond, I felt myself being pulled back into my body, back into the world I had left behind. The first thing I noticed was the sound of voices, urgent, panicked. I gasped for air, my chest rising and falling as I felt the weight of my body again. Bright hospital lights burned my eyes, and I heard the beeping of machines all around me. A nurse leaned over me, eyes wide in shock. "Father Vargas, you're awake," she whispered, but I barely heard her, because I knew I had died. I had stood before Jesus, and I had been sent back with a mission. In the days that followed, I struggled to process what had happened. Doctors told me I had suffered a massive heart attack, that it was a miracle I survived. But I knew the truth. I hadn't just survived, I had been sent back. I couldn't stop thinking about what Jesus had shown me, about the question that had shaken me to my core. Do you truly know me, or do you only know about me? That question haunted me, not because it condemned me, but because it revealed a truth I could no longer ignore. I tried to tell my fellow priests what had happened, but most of them dismissed it. It was just a dream, they said. Your mind was playing tricks on you. But I knew what I had seen. I knew I had been in his presence. Some listened, though. Some saw the change in me, the fire in my heart that hadn't been there before. And the people in my parish, they could feel it too. When I returned to my church, I knew I couldn't go back to the way things were. I couldn't just stand at the altar and go through the motions. I began preaching differently, speaking about relationship with Jesus rather than just obedience to tradition. I spent more time with people, not just as a priest, but as a friend, walking with them, listening, loving them the way Jesus had called me to. Some people embraced the change, saying they had never felt closer to God. Others resisted, clinging to the traditions they had always known. But I wasn't there to force anyone to change. I was there to show them what Jesus had shown me. Faith isn't about rules. It's about love. It's about knowing him. And from that day forward, I made a promise. I would never again let tradition replace relationship. Because I had stood before Jesus, and I knew what truly mattered. If you made it this far, I want you to ask yourself the same question Jesus asked me. Do you truly know him, or do you only know about him? If you feel lost, if your faith has become routine, if you're searching for something deeper, I promise you he is waiting for you. Seek him, not just in words, but with your heart. And if this message spoke to you, let me know in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it and subscribe for more testimonies. And most importantly, don't wait. Know him now.